Town of Florence Planning and Zoning Commission is now in session. We're at the Florence Town Chamber, and the time is 6 p.m. Ms. Orton, if you would take the roll, please.
Chairman Pronzo.
Present.
Vice Chairman Putrick.
Present.
Commissioner Bell. Commissioner Smith.
Present.
Commissioner Frost.
We have a quorum. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Discussion, approval, disapproval of the minutes of the regular meeting conducted on April 20, 2017. Do we have any comments, gentlemen?
I'm good. So I move that we approve the minutes for
April 20.
April 20th.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Petrick, second by Commissioner Schmidt. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. New business. Merrill Ranch Unit 10, PZ 1729. This is a presentation for approval or disapproval of a preliminary plat application for Merrill Ranch Unit 10, submitted by Southwest Value Partners. The subject division is located at the northwest corner of Felix Road and National Way. Do we have a presentation?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Chairman and Commissioners. The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plat for Merrill Ranch Unit 10. As you noted, this property is located at the northwest corner of Felix Road and National Way. There are 137 dwelling units, 33.84 gross acreage, and the density is 4.04 dwelling units per acre. And again, remember, I forgot to take my note off the bottom. This is a PUD, and its overall single-family residential density is 3.5.
Let me interrupt that note. I don't believe this is Anthem.
I know, I said I forgot to take
Oh, I'm
Anthem
sorry.
off.
I didn't
Sorry
get it.
about that. This is just Merrill Ranch. Pursuant to the Land Development Code, Section 150.213, the following information must be provided on all preliminary plats. The requirements: A, form of presentation. This preliminary plat meets presentation requirements for map data on a scale of 40 feet to an inch on the layout pages and 100 feet to an inch on the index map. B, identification and descriptive data. This preliminary plat meets identification and descriptive data as required. The engineer has provided a description of the boundaries using a meets and bounds
Please continue.
legal description with a government corner. The names, addresses, and phone numbers of those preparing the plat are included on the first page, together with the vicinity map and all other identification data. C, existing conditions data. The topography is provided based on USCGS benchmark data identifying contour intervals. Location of adjacent and proposed subdivisions are identified on the plans. Those subdivisions that have been recorded include the name, book, and page numbers of the Pinal County Recorder's Office. D, proposed conditions data. The preliminary plat meets all proposed conditions data. All dimensions for lots and streets have been verified. Street names and land dedicated for public use is identified. This plat is for single-family residential as stated in the PUD documents. The covenants for this PUD have been filed. Proposed utility methods. E, per Public Works, Fire, and GIS, preliminary plat, Merrill Ranch Unit 10, the applicant meets the requirements for the Merrill Ranch PUD and Town Code. Staff finding: the proposed preliminary plat is in conformance with the Merrill Ranch PUD and Town Code requirements. Merrill Ranch Unit 10 meets the density and open space requirements of the Merrill Ranch PUD. Staff's recommendation for the Planning and Zoning Commission is to approve this preliminary plat, subject to the following conditions of approval. Development of subdivision shall comply with all applicable town codes, including all applicable planning, building, fire, and engineering requirements. 2, the developer or property owner is responsible for all applicable street dedications and improvements at the time the subdivision is developed, except as otherwise approved by the town of Florence. And number 3, the Fire and Public Works Department retain the right to address additional development details for this subdivision, such as, but not limited to, easements, dedications, stormwater and drainage improvements, ADA compliance, and fire hydrant placements during the review of the civil plans and final plats for the subject unit. And that concludes my report.
I'll open up to the commission for questions. Please. Commissioner Frost.
Is that working now? Yeah, okay. Michelle had a couple of questions.
Okay.
Tract A, is the intention on Tract A to leave that natural, or is that to be developed?
Let me,
I see Jared is,
Your name and address for the record, sir?
My name is Jared Baxter. I'm the engineer of record of this development for Southwest Value Partners. Tract A, I believe Commissioner Frost, is the former wash that was adjacent to the property. Yes, it is intent is to be left as a natural condition.
okay. You might as well stay there. You might be the one answering the other questions.
All right.
Do you know that these lots are pretty small in width, 45 feet plus or minus? Is the intention, well, maybe ask another way, is the intention to go vertical on these lots versus single story?
We are marketing these lots to respective builders. This is the minimum size of lot that is allowed in the PUD amendment. I would guess that there would be a mixture that comes forward of these lots that's not solid 45-foot lots. That's what we've been, in the Pulte development, that's what we've been doing, is mixing up the sizes. I can't speak to the actual building footprint itself, whether it's vertical or single story, but as builders come forward, they'll be bringing packages, design review approvals to you for approval of their architecture that they plan on placing on these lots.
I guess I just suspect that they'll probably go a little more vertical to get some square footage in the home.
I would guess some of it, yes, but there are some products that are single story that still fit.
And I guess that backs into my real concern with about 24 feet of pavement here. If we have a car on both sides, that leaves plus or minus 14 feet down the middle. And so I guess my concern is, and it sounds like fire is already bought off on this, but putting a piece of fire apparatus between two cars to fight a fire that's going vertical is a bit of a concern.
Yeah, and it's something that's been addressed through the PUD itself, and through engineering review, and also fire approval. This is a roadway width that's been approved and accepted as part of the PUD.
Oh, okay. Just a concern that I see because I've had to deal with this in the past, and it's tough to put a piece of equipment in that small of a space, especially when you got to put a ladder in there to get into a house. So.
Correct.
And this is kind of goes with this plat and its twin to the south. If you could, I know this is the park side of the Merrill Ranch development, the family side.
Mm-hmm.
How many of these areas that are common areas / retention basins at this point will be used for families, for recreation and things like that? I mean, will they be grassed? Will they have playground equipment? I mean, along that line, any information would be helpful.
Yeah, you're referring to Parkside, which is an anthem reference to...
It's just this is the family side of Merrill Ranch.
Merrill Ranch itself does not have a specific designation as far as active adult and as traditional family. There's a mixture of that's been planned as part of the master plan itself and hasn't really been designated as specific locations itself. So this is being marketed more as just a traditional subdivision. per se like we have out in the county itself, so it's not really marketed specifically for families or specifically for active adults itself. The master plan has multiple park locations planned and designated as part of the master plan itself. Initially, no, there will not be those parks built right from the get-go itself. There needs to be some rooftop and some generation of revenue prior to those parks being built. These retention basins will be landscaped and will meet requirements that are in the PUD for the landscaping itself. As far as playground equipment can be placed in these retention basins, but we are still leaving that up to the builders themselves to come forward with what they would like to have in those areas. So we're not designating as mandatory areas for playground equipments in the retention basins.
So would the standard landscaping be more of the xeriscape versus turf?
There's a mixture of that that's called out in the PUD that's clearly spelled out what's required in these retention basins.
I guess my concern is that we have areas that when we're looking holistically at this area, it's quite a walk or a distance to go from here up to the nice facilities more towards the center of the development, and I'm sure a young mother and her children would appreciate some sort of facility within a quarter mile that they can walk to and use.
That's definitely a marketing issue for the builder in that area too. They will need to address that as part of their marketing package too.
So we'll see something come before
Yes,
us.
I would anticipate as we bring civil drawings forward and final architectural plans, there'll be some landscaping plans that will be presented to the Planning Commission also as part of the review. And looking forward to those comments too.
I think that's it for this one. I have a couple on the next one we come to, but
Okay, any other questions?
thank you.
I'm good.
We're satisfied?
Yep.
May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Frost, second by Commissioner Schmidt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Merrill Ranch, Unit 11, PZ 1730, presentation for approval. Disapproval of preliminary plat application for Merrill Ranch, Unit 11, submitted by Southwest Valley Partners. The subject subdivision is located west of Felix Road between National Way and Independence Way. And take it away.
Michelle Orton, Senior Planner for the Town of Florence. As you stated earlier, this is preliminary plat Merrill Ranch Unit 11. There are 219 dwelling units, 17 tracts. The gross acreage is 53.41, and the density is 4.1 dwelling units per acre. Again, pursuant to the Land Development Code, Section 150.213, the following information must be provided on all preliminary plats. A, form of presentation. Meets presentation requirements for map data on a scale of 40 feet to an inch on the layout pages and 120 feet to an inch on the index pages. B, identification and descriptive data. This preliminary plat meets identification and descriptive data as required. The engineer has provided a description of the boundaries using a meets and bounds legal description with a government corner. The names, addresses, and phone numbers of those preparing the plat are included on the first page, together with a vicinity map and all other identification data. C, existing conditions data. The topography is provided based on USCGS benchmark data identifying contour intervals. Locations of adjacent and proposed subdivisions are identified on the plans. Those subdivisions that have been recorded include the name, book, and page number of the Pinell County Recorder's Office. Information regarding the zoning and acreage of all tracts is included on the first page. Proposed conditions data. The preliminary plat meets all proposed conditions data. Streets included in this plat note the location, width, proposed name, and dedication to the public. This plat is for single-family residential as stated in the PUD documents. The covenants for this PUD have been filed. Proposed utility methods. Per Public Works, Fire, and GIS preliminary plat, Merrill Ranch Unit 11, the applicant meets the requirements for the Merrill Ranch PUD and Town Code. Staff finding, the proposed preliminary plat is in conformance with the Merrill Ranch PUD and Town Code requirements. Merrill Ranch Unit 11 meets the density and open space requirements of the Merrill Ranch PUD. Staff recommendation is that the Planning and Zoning Commission approve this preliminary plat subject to the following conditions of approval. And number 1, development of subdivision shall comply with all applicable town codes, including all applicable planning, building, fire, and engineering requirements. The developer/property owner is responsible for all applicable street dedications and improvements at the time the subdivision is developed, except as otherwise approved by the town of Florence. The fire and public works departments retain the right to address additional development details for this subdivision, such as, but not limited to, easements, dedications, stormwater and drainage improvements, ADA compliance, and fire hydrant placements during the reviews of the civil plans and final plats for the subject unit. And that's the end of my report.
At this time, I'll open it to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Commissioner Frost.
I'll just come right up here. You mentioned you had a couple other questions.
Yeah.
One more time for the record, the people who are doing the minutes.
Jared Baxter,
Thank you.
Baxter Design Group.
Okay, and I guess I should have mentioned this previously. I do appreciate the curvilinear design and the way things are broken up, and that helps to control traffic, which is a good thing. Appreciate the views into these landscaped areas that we mentioned earlier. But I did have a couple of concerns in those landscaped areas, particularly with the areas south of lots 205, 206, and south of 212 and 213, because there's basically an area that's unviewable by our diligent police officers as they travel through these areas, and it just creates a situation where it makes it very hard for them to patrol without getting out of their vehicle, which in many instances they can't hardly do in order to be efficient. So I think we need to look very carefully. I think it's probably too late with this plat, but in the future we probably should be very careful about creating those hiding spaces where bad activities can occur, and it's hard for our officers to patrol.
Agreed. Your concern at the last P&Z meeting is we've got into the final engineering. We've actually removed a lot to allow for more view back into those type of areas itself.
Great.
When we went to the final engineering plans, it also helped us out from a drainage standpoint, where it's a retention basin. It gave us a little more area for the drainage standpoint itself. Those areas, you kind of got to look at the plats together, I would say, to really understand those areas. I agree there is kind of a pinch point. There is a slight area that's maybe not a view from the knuckle below. There's a knuckle in the development, or the Unit 10, right there in the corner, that allows view into that area. So there is a small area, I agree with you, that probably doesn't have a perfect view from the street itself. We are going to actively, based on your comments, try to minimize that as much as possible. And then my understanding too, going forward from the town manager, is that police is going to start doing a review on these pre-plats too, that we'll get some comments back from them.
Awesome. Good.
Now, that's what I've heard from the town manager. We haven't submitted a new pre-plat to try to get that process in place, but my understanding is that's where we're going to go with it, so that they can take a quick look at it too, and voice their concerns, or have their concerns addressed.
Okay, I appreciate that. As a previous subdivision that I lived in that had one of these, and that as the population matured, and it sounds negative, but we had some teenagers that used those areas for things that shouldn't have been used for. So.
Yeah, and the way we can mitigate it too is, in the way Pulte has mitigated in the past in some of these areas, they provide view fences. They actually get some premiums out of some of these lots to allow view out of the back of their yards to some of these open spaces. But we're going to try to minimize those as much as possible too.
Yeah, the view fence is a good idea, but that only counts for part of the time. So.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all I had, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else?
One quick question, and maybe I'm missing it. And
Commissioner
I'm
Schmidt?
looking at these, are the streetlights noted on these, or are they not noted?
Street lights are not a requirement as part of the pre-plat. We do have a street light standard that is developed. There will be street lights shown and a street light plan prepared as part of the improvement plans itself. We have very specific requirements from the town standard, and they will be prepared as part of the civil improvement plans.
Okay, they're just not included in this then?
No, at a pre-plat stage, pre-plat, is very preliminary. We get as we get into final engineering, then we worry about drainage, actual catch basin sizes, fire hydrant locations specifically, and then there is a street light construction package that is prepared and submitted to Public Works for review.
Understood. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
No.
May I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the preliminary plat for Merrill Ranch Unit 11.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Frost, second by Commissioner Patrick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Call of the public. Call of the public for public comment on issues within the jurisdiction of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Individual commission members may respond to criticism made, may ask staff to review a matter raised, or may ask that the matter be put on a future agenda. However, members of the commission shall not discuss or take action on any matter during an open call to the public unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion and legal action. And what that means is if it's not on the agenda, we can listen, but we can't respond. Do we have any for call to the public?
Just, these are my neighbors. I invited down because we never have anybody here, and they were to come and see
They're
what we do.
supposed to wear signs. We'll close to the public, call to the commission, current events only. I'd like to be the first one to invite everybody to the director's party on Monday between 5 and 6. And it's a hard farewell.
Yep, I agree. We hate to see you go, Mark, and you've done a lot of great things here in your tenure, and there were a lot of things to address when you came on board as well that you cleaned up, and you did a great job. We have how many awards do we have for planning from the APA?
We have a room full of them. We have an office full of them.
Yes. So he's not been idle, his team hasn't been idle, and we've gotten recognition for the town of Florence across the American Planning Association at least for planning departments throughout the state of Arizona. So that's kind of a big deal, and I wish that under the circumstances that we had more people in the town who were interested in broadcasting what's going on down there. The lack of I liken it to a shooter going to a firing range, and he's cleaned his gun, he's got all his ammo, he's got all his equipment, he goes out, lays his gun down, it's chambered, everything, goes out, puts up a target, and then he stands there. We have since I've been here, we've had 3 major planning operations go on, and we've had no implementation. I think we've missed opportunities to work with the county. The county's been very active, especially in the last 2 years, and we've missed. Well, I'm still in the neighborhood, but that's my point, and I hate to see you go because I think that the person that replaces you is going to have a tough pair of shoes to fill. So, good luck wherever you're going.
Thank you very much.
I'm done.
Anyone else? Then I'll close to the commission. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
It sounds like everybody
Was
wants to.
that dual, triple?
Could I have a second?
Yeah.
I have a motion by Commissioner Patrick and Commissioner Schmidt, second by Commissioner Frost. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned.